Hey everyone, this is Jim with Thriving Branch. Wanted to give you a quick update that things are progressing, and if everything stays on its current schedule, I will be headed to a new home within the next few weeks, maybe a month. I know that seems like a long time, it certainly does for me, but we can be encouraged that progress is being made, even if it seems to be slow. It is still progress, and so that is something that we can be happy about and rejoice about, thank God about, because He is the one who is making all of this happen. And on that note about results, 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. This is a verse in Scripture that a lot of us are probably familiar with. However, sometimes we miss the things that are being said. So I want you to read this with me. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. It says, "His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of Him who has called us to His own glory and virtue." Verse 4, "By which He has granted to us His great and precious promises, so that through them we might become partakers of His divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust." And you notice right in verse 3, it says that His divine power, the power of God, has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness. And when you think about those things, that's what most Christians, most believers are looking for. All things that pertain to life and godliness. There are those in various Christian denominations who think that godliness is something that you work towards. Godliness is something that you strive for. Godliness is something that you try to improve through your behavior, through your performance. But that's not what this says here. This says His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness. And notice the second half of that verse. Notice how everything that pertains to life and godliness comes. It comes through the knowledge of Him who has called us to His own glory and virtue. Who do you think that is? Who is that talking about? Of course, it's Jesus. If God were to come to you, maybe visit you like He did to Solomon, and God was to ask you, "What can I give to you? What do you want?" What would your answer be? Would you ask Him for more money? Would you ask Him for success in business or in your personal life? Would you ask Him for a new home, as I have been? There are many things you could ask Him for, but would you ask Him for the one thing that's pointed out here? A greater revelation, a greater knowledge, a deeper understanding of Jesus. Because that's what this verse highlights as the channel by which all things that He has granted to us comes. The power of God has given to us all things that pertain to not just godliness, mind you, but all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of Him, that's Jesus, who has called us to His own glory and virtue, by which He has granted to us his great and precious promises, the promises that many Christians don't even know today, but great and precious promises that through them, through those promises, we might be partakers of his divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. So what is this saying? As we see more of Jesus, as we focus on Jesus, we receive, by his divine power, all things that pertain to life and godliness. That's worth some meditation. That's worth some study. And we're probably going to continue this over the next couple weeks at least, because this here is something that I think can unlock a lot of doors. This can break a lot of chains. So I encourage you, as I'm going to do this week, study this, meditate on this, and I look forward to thriving with you again. Be blessed.